This is my EPFE 321 interview analysis, and we're going to go over some of the key points that we talked about throughout the interview and how it and why it is the way it is. So I'll start with physical education. I asked him about a few physical education points, and that's because I'm a PE major. And some of the things we talked about was how it was less respected compared to science and math, and that was because of the Cold War. During this time, the Cold War was happening, and science and math was prioritized over physical education because the United States wanted students to be ready to help their country and to help in the arms race and the space race. So it was very important to note during this time that this was a very important part, and it limited PE in some districts and some schools. Even nowadays, elementary schools have only 3 days of PE compared to 5, and that's in many districts. And it probably is time for a change for that. It definitely is, because we're no longer in a space race or an arms race. And one of the biggest issues in the United States right now is obesity and people being overweight. So I believe that physical education along with health education could help with that. And overall, the Cold War did play a huge impact on PE and why it is right now. Because before the Cold War and the World War II, for example, PE was very important to keep our students in shape just in case they were going to go out and fight in the war, so they were ready to go. Next thing we talked about was safety, and more specifically bombing drills and how they were conducted. So during his time, they didn't really have many school shooting drills, and that was because it wasn't deemed a threat back then, because it did happen. However, it was not as common as it is now. So during that time, they had bombing drills, and what it consisted of was students going under their desks to survive a bomb, which obviously wouldn't be very effective. So, as I said, that was probably one of the biggest threats back then, because things were very uncertain. They never knew what was going to happen and if the Soviet Union was ever going to drop a bomb. So it was very important to note that school shootings was not a threat back then, and it is now. So over time, what could have happened is a worsening of mental health, and that could be for many different reasons. You can look at psychology for that and different types of analytics. However, school shooting is a big threat now, and nowadays we do have a lot of school shooting drills and we don't have any bombing drills, which is self-explanatory. However, it just shows how different the things were from back then and now concerning threats and problems. So school shooting now, back then bombing threats. Class sizes, this is a very important part to note because class sizes do dictate how a class is run. So back then he told me that he had only about 20 students in his class, and that was very, very common. So nowadays you could see up to 40 and 50 students in one class, and that makes it a lot harder for students to learn because teachers can't give feedback very accurately and they can't assess them. So with more students, it makes it a lot harder for that one-to-one interaction with each student. However, back then he told me that he had quite a bit of one-on-one interactions, and it was that much easier just because the class sizes were kept small. Now this is probably because more students are entering districts, which leads to more demand for teachers, which leads to bigger class sizes because more students, there has to be more teachers unless you make bigger classes, which limits a lot of things such as accurate assessment, more one-on-one, and also good feedback. So this is very different compared to then, and then, like I said, this could be because of more demand for teachers, and it could be because of more students entering districts. Now, technology. This is a very important part to talk about because it has advanced so much since his time. And during his time, he didn't have much technology, and that could have been, well, it was because it was very new at the time, and it was very hard to gain. So with that, he had it harder to contact with his teachers than, for example, I do now. I can just send out an email and I can contact them. However, he didn't have that luxury, so it's very much so different. However, this also has the question of, does technology help students learning or does it hinder it? And I believe it's a little bit of both. I believe that students have it easier to cheat now. They can use AI more than ever. AI could be used for good things and it could also be used for bad. So it's very important to know how students use it and why they use it. Other than that, using technology also helps contact your teachers. It could gain more information because, for example, my cousin, he could not contact his teacher outside of school, so it was made harder for him to gain that information that he might have not had. If I have a question, like I earlier said, I could just send an email, right? It's much easier for me than it was for him. And with the rise of technology, it also gives most districts the chance to give their students Chromebooks, tablets, and other sorts of technology to help them out. Because if students were required to buy their own computers or their own tablets, it would make it harder, and not many people would be able to afford it. So it's very, very beneficial for students. However, it could be used for the wrong reasons. So it's very important to note how students use it, why they use it, and exactly how it could use it. Because it could either help them be more creative, or it can also stop them from being more creative if they just copy it or use it as inspiration. Using it as inspiration is a lot better than copying it because it gives you an idea of how you want to put a spin on it rather than just copying it off straight off the bat. So it's very, very important to know. These were only some of the things we talked about. There was many, many other things that I could have talked about. However, this is some of the things that I felt strongly about and how he felt strongly about. So it was very important to know about all these different topics that we talked about. And overall, I think that this was a great presentation. And when I say this is a good presentation, I mean that this is a good assignment because it gave me the chance to think about what we talked about. And overall, this interview was very, very helpful for me and my understanding as a future educator. So I just want to thank you. And also, I do want to apologize for using my phone to record this live. This is how I determined to do it, and I know there's easier ways, so I apologize for that. Hopefully, it all translates nicely. So thank you very much, and have a nice day.